Despite how much we may try to deny it, there's just something interesting about psychopaths, which is why when stories about them come out, they often sweep the world by storm. And while it's fun to learn about serial killers and other famous psychopaths, what you may be surprised to learn is how many of them are hanging around the same grocery stores, gyms, and schools that you frequent. Because of the intrigue and mystique surrounding psychopaths, it can often seem more like fiction than real life. But these facts about psychopaths that we are going to be going over today are just as, if not more interesting, than the stories you hear on the internet. So make sure to stick around for number 1, because it not only will change how you see psychopaths forever, but also may help you recognize them in real life. Number 9. Psychopaths feel emotions, but not in any way that we might think. It has been a topic of debate for some time whether or not psychopaths genuinely feel emotions. Most experts today, however, agree that psychopaths do feel emotions, but not all of them, and not in the way that the rest of us do. These people do not feel guilt, remorse, or empathy, or possess the ability to develop a deep attachment to others. Because of these traits, these types of people are more capable of performing terrible deeds. But this doesn't at all mean that every person with psychopathic tendencies will go out and actually do anything out of the ordinary at any point in their life. While some psychopathic people can pick up on other people's emotional states using context clues and other hints, they can't truly relate to those feelings. Number 8. They don't really know fear or anxiety. Psychopaths may understand emotion to a certain extent, but they are not driven by them. These people tend to experience almost no form of anxiety, either about themselves or the situations that they find themselves in. Because they are not ruled by limitations or by doubt, psychopaths are usually risk takers, and their emotional state operates in a similar way, jumping from highs to lows quickly and seemingly changing out of nowhere. Psychopaths also don't really understand fear and don't often feel it themselves. People with psychopathic tendencies can seem reckless to others as a result, and because of a lack of empathy, are not at all that likely to take your advice on what to do and what to avoid. They also don't tend to take a liking to advice in general, and feel extremely confident in their own choices and decisions, for better or worse. Number 7. They are masters of manipulation. To operate in the world as a human being without really having an understanding of people's emotions is extremely difficult. We are social creatures by nature, and are not as likely to form friendships with individuals that we don't feel understand us. As a result, people with psychopathy are almost by necessity forced to try to adapt to the culture around them, and have become great mimics of emotions as a result. These people can be your coworkers or neighbors without you really knowing that they don't really feel what they are saying. But this isn't done in a mean-spirited way. People with psychopathy do this to not stand out, but also just to better fit in and make sure that they don't make other people uncomfortable. While there are definitely those within this group of people that use manipulation to cause harm, it's equally or even more likely that a person will employ mimicry just to avoid having to explain themselves to you or so they don't stand out. Number 6. We all are at least a little psychopathic. One of the most amazing facts about psychopaths is that we all have a little bit of them in us. Psychopathy is a spectrum, and each and every one of us falls somewhere on that spectrum. This fact does a great job of helping you get into these headspaces, since we've all acted without remorse before, or been called ruthless or fearless. Another way that we all tend to show our psychopathic side is when we lie or put on an act to get our way. A common way that we do this is when we talk to our boss in a friendly way in order to get a promotion, or when we turn up the charm when we have to ask someone for a favor. By the way, make sure to subscribe if you've learned something new today. Number 5. They occupy some of the most demanding and lucrative jobs. High-functioning psychopaths are more common than you would think, even if psychopaths make up only roughly 1% of the population. It's because these people are prone to taking risks, and often these gambles pay off. If you factor in the fact that these people are fearless and often obsessive over their goals, then you have a very productive member of any business. Psychopaths tend to be drawn to precise and high-risk occupations, like surgeons and soldiers, and this is because they have a reduced fear response, meaning things like failure and self-doubt do not really ever creep into the conversation for them. Famous psychopaths are also more common than we probably know of, because they are more willing to be ruthless to the competition and do whatever they can to take what they want. Number 4. They mostly live in cities. Another interesting psychopath fact that makes sense once you give it some thought is that they are much more commonly found in cities and large towns than rural environments. This is because psychopathic people tend to want to live in fast-paced environments, since they feel like they will be better rewarded for their preferred lifestyle. It's also more comfortable because it's less likely they will run into the same person multiple times, and they don't ever have to build on relationships. Psychopaths tend to want to rack up multiple partners rather than settle down. And it's not that appealing for these people to try to cultivate and build a life with someone that could be seen as a burden to their pursuits. Psychopaths tend to be more selfish too, so they don't want to constantly mend fences and keep up the appearance of a happy life that they have to sacrifice for. Generally speaking, psychopaths will always pick themselves when given a choice, and so a city environment where they are free to constantly meet new people instead of the same faces is more appealing to them, and they are less likely to get bored with all the activities cities have as well. Number 3. They think that they are above the rules. A psychopath's brain is a complicated thing to try and explain, mostly because it is a way of thinking so foreign to the rest of us. Psychopaths don't really seem to respect the way the rest of us think either, which is why they can be so impactful on people's lives. These people usually think that they are above the rules, and similar to narcissists, they have quite a high opinion of themselves. Psychopaths will walk into a room and immediately think of themselves as the smartest one in it, and would much rather be in control and in a leadership role than part of a group. This is for multiple reasons. One being that they think they can do a better job, but it's also because they would rather be away from the group as much as possible. Psychopaths are more comfortable in social situations where they are in power, as they don't have any problems telling people what to do or putting their manipulation abilities to good use. A psychopath in a managerial or teaching position can seem cruel or calculating, and it's not uncommon for people with psychopathic traits to seek out those positions of power for that very reason. Number 2. They can't read expressions very well, especially horror. When psychopaths are shown a picture of a person expressing horror or fear, they will often not know how to describe that emotion, and can only describe other experiences that they have seen that face on someone before. Since psychopaths don't really feel fear, and they can't understand or experience empathy, people expressing that emotion can feel strange to a psychopath, and even make them visibly uncomfortable in some instances. These people are also easy to spot, as they won't react at all to things that seem scary, since their fear response levels are really low. This can range from a scary movie where they don't jump, or even a deeply traumatic event that they won't react at all to. When it comes to facial expressions, especially, psychopaths have a lot of difficulty trying to figure out what your face is telling them. Number 1. They will often try to push you to react emotionally in an argument. An extremely useful fact about psychopaths is that they are very much self-aware. While a narcissist may not even know that they are being hurtful to further their own agenda, a psychopath knows that they are not as governed by emotion as the typical person, and they use that to their advantage. Arguing with a psychopath can be difficult, as they will try to push your buttons to get you to react in a way that shows that they are getting to you, all while staying very detached themselves. You may feel like they know what they are doing and are just pretending to play dumb, and you would be right. Their goal in these situations, and most situations, is to maintain control and dominate the situation. As soon as they can get you acting emotionally, they will point it out and probably tell you to calm down or something along those lines. And if you like this video, then check out these related videos to see more. And make sure to like this video to let the algorithm know you'd like to see more videos like these.